If you've ever stared at a messy room or a to-do list that never gets shorter and thought, why can't I just get it together? This video is for you. I'm a working mom with ADHD and have tried every organization system out there. Most of them failed, so I built my own, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what works, why it works for an ADHD brain, and how you can start using it this week. Organization really comes down to behavior, and sure, there are busy times when it's more difficult to stay organized, but I think most of us know that even when life slows down, the chaos doesn't always go away. That's because the problem isn't really time, it's how we use it. Now I want to be honest because I think this is where a lot of organization content gets it wrong. Sometimes they assume you're not trying hard enough or need more discipline, that you're wasting hours scrolling or procrastinating your way through the day. And no one's perfect. I'm not going to pretend I've never lost 30 minutes to social media when I had other things I could have been doing. But overall, I feel like I use my time well. Especially at work or when I'm hyper-focused on something I care about, I can be incredibly productive. So why, despite feeling productive, do I still feel so busy? Why does the to-do list never actually get shorter? That question led me to a concept that completely changed how I think about organization. It's called Parkinson's Law. It says that work expands to fill the time available for it. So, if you have 2 hours to clean the kitchen, it takes 2 hours. If you have 20 minutes, somehow it still gets done. We've all felt this, the way a task that should take half an hour somehow eats an entire afternoon when nothing is forcing you to wrap it up. There's no urgency, so your brain creates none. And I want to be fair here, Parkinson's Law isn't the whole story. There have been seasons of my life where I genuinely could not finish everything I needed to, no matter how many hours I put in. Looking back, I think the real issue in those moments wasn't the effort, it was the prioritization. I was working hard, but not necessarily on the right things in the right order. Organization isn't just about getting things done, it's about getting the right things done first. But here's where it gets really important for those of us with ADHD. Parkinson's Law affects everyone, but it hits differently when your brain is wired the way ours is. For most neurotypical people, there's a background hum of urgency that helps them self-regulate. A quiet internal voice that says, okay, it's time to start, it's time to wrap up, or this is taking too long. For an ADHD brain, that signal is much quieter. Sometimes it's completely silent. Without a hard deadline or external pressure, we genuinely struggle to manufacture that sense of, I need to do this now, on our own. That's not a character flaw and it's not laziness, it's neuroscience. So what ends up happening is that we have all this capacity, real capability, real intelligence, and real drive. But without the right structure, that capacity doesn't get directed anywhere. Tasks take as long as they take. The list grows, the chaos persists, and we walk around feeling like we're constantly behind, even when we're working really hard. That's the trap, and it's why most generic organization systems don't work for us. They assume you have a brain that naturally creates its own structure. They give you a pretty planner and a color-coded system and expect that to be enough. For an ADHD brain, it rarely is, because the problem was never that we didn't have the right notebook. The problem is that our brains need structure built into the environment, not just the intention. So the goal isn't to try harder, it's not to finally find the willpower to stick to a routine. The goal is to build a system that creates structure for you, so your brain doesn't have to generate it from scratch every single day. That's exactly what I'm going to walk you through. Before we dive into each of these challenges and how to solve them, I want to share one ADHD-based tip that honestly applies to everyone, and it's the foundation everything else builds on. That is to have one planner or notebook for everything. I know that sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but you would be surprised how many of us are running 3 different notebooks. A notes app, a whiteboard, and a stack of random sticky notes with no real home. And when your brain already struggles to keep track of things, splitting your system across multiple places just multiplies the problem. I have this giant planner and take it with me everywhere. To work, on weekends, to appointments, it comes with me. And every evening I open it up and review what happened that day and plan for the next day. It has everything I need to remember, everything I need to do, every idea I don't want to lose. It all goes in here. The reason this works so well, especially for ADHD brains, is that it removes a layer of cognitive load. Instead of trying to remember which notebook has which information or whether you wrote that appointment in your phone or on paper, Everything lives in one place. You always know where to look. That consistency creates a kind of quiet confidence, a feeling that things are under control even when life is full. Because your system is reliable even when your memory isn't. So before we go any further, if you don't already have one central place for your tasks, notes, and reminders, that is step one. Everything else I'm about to share will work better because of it. The first challenge is forgetting things. Let's start with the one that probably drives you crazy. You think of something important in the middle of the night and tell yourself you'll remember it in the morning, and you don't. You could be in the middle of cooking dinner and remember you were supposed to respond to an email. By the time you sit down at your laptop, it's gone. Does that sound familiar? The solution is almost embarrassingly simple. Write things down the moment you think of them. Not in 5 minutes, not when you finish what you're doing, right now, in that moment. The key to making this actually work is removing all friction from the process. That means having something to write on and something to write with in every room you spend time. I keep sticky notes and a pen at my desk, in the kitchen, on my nightstand, and anywhere else I tend to be when thoughts show up uninvited. You want to get to the point where writing something down takes less mental effort than trying to hold on to it. I also keep sticky notes inside my planner specifically for things I need to remember the next morning. Something I need to grab before I leave the house, a task I want to tackle first thing at work, or something I want to bring up in a meeting. Taking 2 minutes at the end of the day to write those things down means I'm not starting my morning in a panic, trying to reconstruct my mental list from scratch. Here's something I didn't expect when I started doing this consistently. It actually calms your mind. When you trust something is written down and won't be lost, your brain stops holding on to it so tightly. You stop ruminating. You stop doing that thing where a task is technically done, but you keep mentally circling back to it just to make sure you didn't forget anything. Writing things down is not just a productivity strategy for an ADHD brain, it's genuinely a stress management tool. The goal is to get to a place where your brain is for thinking, not for storing. Let the planner do the remembering. Save your mental energy for actually doing things. Challenge 2 is prioritizing. Once you have everything written down, the next challenge is figuring out what to actually do first. And this is where a lot of us, ADHD or not, get tripped up. When everything feels urgent, nothing really gets prioritized. You end up either frozen by the list or bouncing between tasks without making meaningful progress on any of them. The framework I find most helpful is thinking about tasks in terms of 2 questions. Is this important and is this urgent? Important means it has real consequences if it doesn't get done. Urgent means it needs to happen soon. Most things we stress about fall into one of 4 combinations of those 2 factors. And recognizing which category something falls into tells you almost exactly what to do with it. Something that is both important and urgent needs to happen today. Something that is important but not urgent, like planning ahead for a project or scheduling a doctor's appointment, can be given a specific future date, rather than sitting vaguely on your list making you anxious. And here's the one most of us skip: things that are neither important nor urgent. Those need to be examined honestly. Ask yourself whether they actually need to be done on your list at all. Could you remove them entirely? Could you outsource them or delegate them to someone else? One of the most underrated productivity moves is shortening your to-do list by removing things that shouldn't be on it in the first place. For work tasks specifically, I'd encourage you to get comfortable asking your coworkers directly about deadlines and urgency. This sounds small, but it makes a real difference. I sometimes interpret a task as low priority if no deadline was given, and it turns out they needed a response the next day. On the flip side, I've also stressed myself out about something that seems urgent when my coworker would have been completely fine waiting a week. Clarifying upfront saves so much wasted mental energy in both directions. Now here's the specific system I use, and it all starts with what I call my everything list. Before I make any daily to-do list, I keep a running list of every task I need to accomplish eventually. Some are urgent and some aren't. Some are work-related and some are personal. This list lives on a sticky note inside my planner and moves with me every day. It's not meant to be completed today, it's meant to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Every morning, I look at my everything list and choose just 3 things to focus on during the workday. Not 10, not everything on the list, just 3. And then separately, 3 things I want to accomplish after work, and that's it. For me, a workday might look like respond to emails, review a project and send comments to a coworker, and research companies for our portfolio. At home, it might be spend time with my son, cook dinner, and read once he's in bed. 3 things sounds like not enough, but what I found is that 3 things done well actually moves the needle more than 10 things half finished. And on the days when you finish your 3 and have more capacity, you can always pull from your everything list. The goal is to stop starting each day with an overwhelming list and instead start with a clear, achievable intention. The third challenge is schedules. One of the most effective things you can do for an ADHD brain and for any busy working mom is to stop making decisions in real time and start making them in advance. That's what a schedule really is. It's not about being rigid or running your life by a timer. It's about deciding ahead of time how your time will be used, so you're not burning mental energy on that question every single day. The reason schedules work so well comes back to what we talked about earlier, Parkinson's law and the fact that our brains struggle to self-generate urgency. A schedule creates that urgency artificially. When you know that from 5 to 6 is dinner and family time and from 7 to 8 is your wind down routine, you're not negotiating with yourself about when to start or how long things should take. The decision has already been made and all you have to do is follow it. Start by identifying the non-negotiables in your week. The things that happen at the same time every day regardless of anything else. Work hours, school pickup, meals, bedtime routines, these are your anchors. Build everything else around them. Then look at the remaining pockets of time and be intentional about what goes there. Even a loose structure, Monday evenings are for errands, Tuesday evenings are for personal projects, is more effective than deciding fresh every night what you're going to do. The goal isn't a perfect schedule that you execute flawlessly. It's a default plan that reduces the number of micro decisions you have to make throughout the week. One thing I'd also encourage is building buffer time into your schedule and actually protecting it. ADHD brains tend to underestimate how long things take, which means a schedule with no breathing room will collapse under its own weight. Give yourself more time than you think you need for transitions, for tasks that run long, and for the unexpected things that will inevitably come up. A schedule that can absorb a little chaos is one you'll actually stick to. And finally, review your schedule regularly. A weekly check-in, even just 10 minutes on Sunday evening to look at the week ahead and adjust as needed, can completely change how prepared and calm you feel going into Monday morning. Our fourth challenge is procrastination, because I think it's one of the most misunderstood struggles that comes with ADHD. We tend to think of procrastination as a motivation problem or even a laziness problem. But procrastination is almost always an initiation problem. It's not that you don't want to do the thing, it's that your brain cannot figure out how to start it. That distinction matters because the solution to an initiation problem looks very different from the solution to a motivation problem. You don't need more reasons to do the task, you need a way to lower the barrier to starting it. The most effective tool I found for this is the Pomodoro technique. If you haven't heard of it, here's how it works. You set a timer for 25 minutes and work on one task with complete focus for that time. When the timer goes off, you take a 5-minute break, then you do it again. Every 4 rounds, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. What makes this so effective is that it reframes the task. You're not sitting down to finish the project, you're just sitting down for 25 minutes. That's it. The commitment is small enough that your brain stops resisting it. And more often than not, once you started and the momentum is there, you find yourself wanting to keep going past the timer. Getting started was the hard part, and the Pomodoro technique made starting feel manageable. If even 25 minutes feels like too big of a commitment on a particularly hard day, try this instead. Give yourself just 10 minutes. Set a timer and tell yourself you only have to do the task for that long. 10 minutes to clean the kitchen or to work on that project you've been avoiding. 10 minutes is almost always enough time to break through the initiation barrier. And again, once you've started, continuing becomes much easier than starting did. The 10-minute rule also works beautifully for home tasks, especially when you're already tired at the end of a long day and the thought of cleaning feels impossible. You're not cleaning the whole house, you're just doing 10 minutes. And 10 minutes of picking up consistently every evening makes a bigger difference than you'd think. Setting a timer works because it creates a sense of urgency and can shorten the barrier between where you are and where you start. The fifth challenge is home organization. It's its own category because keeping a house functioning with a working mom's schedule is genuinely a different challenge than staying on top of things at work. At work, there are external structures, deadlines, and other people creating accountability. At home, it's just you, your family, and whatever systems you've built for yourself. The single most effective habit I've developed for keeping the house manageable is this: put things back as you use them. Not later, not at the end of the day, right then when you're done with something. It goes back where it belongs. I try to do the same with my son and his toys. As we play with things, we put them away before moving on to something else. This does two things. First, it keeps the house from descending into chaos gradually throughout the day. Second, it actually models great behavior for kids. When tidying up is built into the activity rather than treated as a separate chore at the end, it becomes a habit for everyone in the household. This only works, though, if everything has a place. If something doesn't have a designated home, it will migrate to every flat surface in your house until it disappears completely. Go through your spaces and make sure every item has a specific place it belongs. And where possible, that place should be out of sight. Visible clutter is particularly hard on ADHD brains because everything in your field of vision competes for your attention. Closed cabinets, baskets with lids, drawer organizers, anything that gets things off surfaces and out of sight will make your home feel calmer and your brain feel clearer. And for those cleaning sessions where you actually set aside the time to tidy up, use a timer. This might sound like a small thing, but it makes a significant difference. Set a timer for 20 or 30 minutes and clean with focus until it goes off. This works for two reasons. First, it keeps Parkinson's law working in your favor. You're not cleaning for a little while, you're cleaning for exactly 30 minutes, which means you move with purpose. Second, it protects you from a very common ADHD trap. Starting to clean one room, noticing something that belongs in another room, going to put it away, and getting distracted by something in that room. Suddenly, it's an hour later, and somehow nothing is cleaner. The timer keeps you anchored. When you find something that belongs elsewhere, set it by the door and deal with it after the timer goes off. Stay in the room, finish the task, then move on. Home organization isn't about having a perfect house, it's about having a house that doesn't add to your mental load. One where you can find what you need, where things have a place, and where the baseline level of order is manageable enough that it doesn't require a heroic effort to maintain. So there you have it. One planner for everything. Write things down the moment you think of it. Prioritizing with intention, building a schedule that works with your brain, tackling procrastination with small commitments, and keeping your home manageable with simple, consistent habits. I want to leave you with this. If you've spent years feeling like you just can't get it together, like everyone else got a manual for adulting that you somehow missed, I want you to know that it was never about the effort. You were not failing because you weren't trying hard enough. You were trying to use systems that weren't built for you. The strategies I shared today aren't about becoming a different person or finally achieving some perfect, Pinterest worthy organized life. They're about building just enough structure that your brain has something to work with so that your energy, your creativity, and your capacity can actually go toward the things that matter most to you: your family, your work, yourself. Start small. Pick one thing from this video and try it this week. Maybe it's getting a planner and committing to it. Maybe it's writing down your 3 priorities tomorrow morning before you open your email. Maybe it's setting a 10-minute timer tonight and seeing what happens. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. Small, consistent changes are what actually stick. If this video was helpful, I'd love it if you shared it with another working mom who might need to hear it. And if you want more content like this, make sure you're subscribed because I post new videos every other week for working moms who are building a life they actually love. I also have a weekly newsletter with extra content to solidify what you may have learned from these videos. You can sign up for that in the description. I'll see you in the next one.